my guest, let me give you a brief take. And I title my take, Don't Do Mere Conveyor Belt Journalism. Don't do mere conveyor belt journalism. Now, for a good number of journalists in this country, they seem to forget or don't get that training that the fact that someone else is supplying you information, whether or not that information is in a certain document, whether official or not, means that the journalist has no obligation to verify the contents of that document. So we are caught up in a time where we do a lot more of conveyor belt journalism. Some person throws a document at you. Once you can see there's some signature on it, sometimes it's not signed, it's not properly authenticated. And the journalist feels that once that document has the semblance of official documentation, they can go ahead and publish that document or the content of that document without caring to check and verify the content of the document. In fact, some go to the extent of listening to someone say something and simply think that for carrying the message of that person, that's all there is about it. If another person is hurt or thinks that what the other has said is not accurate or in any way hurts them, they should come forward and also give a reaction. No. You have a duty to check, to verify. And the code of conduct for journalists requires you to double check. The code says where using straightforward means to procure that information becomes difficult, then you can use not straightforward means, including subterfuge, to procure the documentation. The conveyor belt journalism can be very costly to yourself, to your integrity, and to the organization you work for financially and its integrity. Give you an example. Kweku Baku just won a victory in the court on defamation. He decided to sue the person who spoke. Guess what? He had the right to sue the media platforms on which the utterances were made. It was his election. He elected his victims. You choose your victims as you find them. He elected the victims. So he decided to sue only Canada, Japan, and not the Sempa and Adom and Netu, Net3 platforms, the Netu TVs that carried that message and did the publication. Here is my point. Let us be extremely careful in simply carrying information just because we trust the person who is giving it, or we have seen some document. We have the duty to double check. And once we discover, and sometimes we make errors, we are humans. Once we discover an error has been made, let's be bold enough and be firm to retract and apologize. And for those of you who read the article this week from two media platforms that suggested that some judges, a good number of the judges, including Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, had been taken to the charge for not declaring their assets. You would find that later the media entities deleted those articles, they retracted and apologized. That is what we ought to do once you discover you have done the wrong. And I disclose that I wrote to those media entities acting as a lawyer for one of those judges in the Supreme Court, Justice Samuel Malfo Sal. He had declared his assets even before he went to be vetted in Parliament. And yet the reportage was that he had not declared his assets. The fact that something has been put in charge does not mean that document that has gone to charge, when you use it, you may not be liable to defamation. Let's stop the conveyor belt journalism so that we don't put ourselves at risk and our media entities at risk. Thank you very much. This is my take. Now, let me introduce my guest